When a young mechanic accepts the challenge and touches the truck, something unexpected wipes the smile off the owner's face, and no one imagines what's about to happen. Emma Roberts was walking along Route 66, backpack on her shoulders, worn sneakers letting in every pebble on the road. 24 years old, too thin, she was coming back from Springfield, where she'd gone looking for a job that never really existed. The shop owner had laughed in her face. "A certificate, sweetheart? Without papers, you're nothing. Come back when you've grown up." Emma had kept her anger in her pocket, along with the last $15 from her one-way ticket. The return trip she was doing on foot. 25 miles wasn't the first time. The traffic appeared as a bright spot in the darkness, parked on the shoulder near the abandoned gas station at mile marker 508 on Route 66. Hood open, a small white smoke rising like a prayer for the dead. A woman was sitting on the curb, face hidden in her hands. Emma could have kept walking. She was tired, hungry, eager to get home before her mother woke up and saw that her daughter had returned empty-handed. But something about this scene made her stop. Maybe it was the way the woman was crying softly, trying not to make noise, exactly like her mother did when she thought Emma was sleeping. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Emma approached slowly, so as not to startle her. The woman looked up. She must have been in her 60s, greying hair tied in a loose bun, clothes in simple fabric that had seen better days, worn sandals. Her eyes were swollen. "Oh, honey, this van let me down. It's old, the poor thing, but it had never done this to me before." The voice had a southern accent, the kind that stretches vowels and turns problems into problems. Emma looked at the van. It was a 1988 model, rusty, filled with boxes of costume jewelry, piled on the back seat. "Where do you need to go, Mom?" The woman wiped her eyes with the corner of her dress. "To Houston, honey. I need to catch a train at dawn to San Antonio. My sister's in the hospital, very sick. If I don't make it by 6 a.m., I'll miss my train." Emma opened the hood and leaned over the engine. Her phone's flashlight had 5% battery, but it was enough to see. She placed her hand on the engine, felt the temperature, listened to the abnormal silence coming from inside. Fuel pump. She knew it without needing to test. It was the same problem her father's truck had 3 days before his death. Emma closed her eyes, and for a second she was 15 again, watching her father under the old truck in the yard, teaching her. The engine talks, Emma. You just have to know how to listen. Every noise is a word. Every silence is a scream. "Mom, how much gas do you have in the tank?" The woman stood up, confused. "I'm on reserve, honey. That's why I stopped here. I was going to fill up, but the station's been closed for a long time." Emma looked around. The station was a concrete skeleton, rusty pumps, fallen sign. There was a container converted into a snack bar closed until 7 a.m., some dry trees, and in the back, smoking like a sleeping dragon, a huge Mercedes-Benz truck was parked. Emma turned her attention back to the van. The pumps shot. Without it, the gas doesn't reach the engine. The woman's shoulders dropped. "So it's over, isn't it, honey? I'm going to miss my train." Her voice broke again. Emma stood still, biting her lip. She had $15 in her pocket. Not enough to call a tow truck, not enough to buy a part, not enough to do anything. She could leave. She should leave. But the image of her own mother sitting on that sidewalk alone, crying, wouldn't leave her head. "Let me try something." Emma took out from her backpack her father's Swiss Army knife, the one she carried everywhere like an amulet. She opened the van's tool drawer, found a piece of used fuel hose, looked around, and saw an empty plastic bottle thrown near the container. She picked it up. 20 minutes later, Emma had created a makeshift bypass system. She'd cut the hose, connected it directly from the tank to the carburetor, using the bottle as an intermediate reservoir attached with wire to the bumper. It was pure improvisation, but improvisation that worked. "Ma'am, start it up." The woman turned the key, hand shaking. The engine coughed, grumbled, almost died, but started. It was running a bit irregularly with misfires, but it was running. The woman screamed, jumped out, tried to hug Emma. "Honey, you're an angel. How much do I owe you?" Emma wiped her hands on her pants. "Nothing at all, ma'am. Drive carefully, okay? And in Houston find a real garage. This'll get you there, but that's all." The woman opened her purse, pulled out a $50 bill. "Honey, please." Emma stepped back. "It's not necessary. You remind me of my mother. Go with God." The woman put the money away but didn't give up. She looked toward the back of the station, toward the parked Mercedes truck. "Then do me another favor, honey. I've been here for 2 hours. That truck over there has been parked for 2 days. The driver is a distant cousin, Jack Morrison. Poor guy is desperate. 3 mechanics have come. None solved the problem. If you could take a look, it would be a blessing." Emma looked at the truck. It was an Actros, tractor pulling 25 tons, 6-cylinder engine, common rail electronic injection. This wasn't a toy. This was a machine worth $500,000. She hesitated. She was exhausted. She wanted to sleep, go home, but the woman was looking at her with eyes of someone who believes in miracles, and Emma couldn't say no. "Okay, Mom, I'll take a look, but I don't guarantee anything." The woman smiled, opened the van, took out a small worn notebook and wrote something down. Emma didn't notice. She was already walking toward the truck, smelling the diesel burning in the air, listening to the abnormal silence coming from that giant engine. In the back of her head, her father's voice echoed. "A rushed machine gets nowhere, Emma. Listen, feel, let it tell you what hurts." She whispered the phrase softly like a prayer, like a mantra. She didn't know it, but that woman in sandals and worn dress was noting every word, every gesture, every second of this act of kindness that would change her life forever. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to Engines of Hope, like this video, and comment where you're watching from. Emma stopped 10 feet from the Mercedes-Benz and just looked. The truck was a monster of metal, high cab, chrome grille, even dirty from road dust, bumper that looked like it could demolish a house. In the cab, a man was sleeping on his side, mouth open, several days' beard. Emma knocked on the door. The man woke with a start, his hand going directly to the knife at his belt. When he saw it was just a skinny young girl, he relaxed. "What?" The voice came out hoarse. "Mr. Jack Morrison, Mrs. Santos told me you have a problem with the truck. I came to see." The man got out of the cab. He was tall, broad shoulders, Virgin Mary tattoo on his left arm, scar on his eyebrow. He looked Emma up and down and didn't like what he saw. "You're a mechanic?" Emma put her hands in her pockets. "Yes." Jack spat on the ground. "Mechanic of what? Bicycles? You look like you've never seen an engine this size in your life, kid." Emma didn't respond. She climbed on the step, opened the cab door, sat in the driver's seat. The smell was of a man who'd been sleeping there for days, mixed with cold coffee and despair. She turned the key. The engine made a strange noise, tried to start, died. She tried again, same noise, as if something was stuck, blocked, suffocated inside. Emma closed her eyes and placed her hand on the dashboard, feeling the abnormal vibration. Common rail injector cylinder 4, solenoid valve blocked. Dirty oil in the system. Jack climbed on the step. "Oh yeah? How do you know that? Did you read it in Coffee Grounds?" Emma got out of the cab. "I know because I've seen it before. My father had an old Freightliner. Same problem, the valve gets stuck. Fuel doesn't enter the cylinder properly. Engine chokes. Except on the Freightliner, it was easier to fix. On this one, it's more complicated." Jack crossed his arms. 3 mechanics have already been here, kid. One from Springfield, with a professional scanner. One from Tulsa, with 30 years on the road. And just yesterday, a Mercedes specialist from Oklahoma City came. None managed to start this beast. And you think you'll succeed with that starving look? Emma felt anger rising but swallowed it. It wasn't the first time she'd heard this. "I can try, or you'd prefer to stay here rotting with the cargo." Jack took a step forward. For a second, it looked like he was going to hit her, but Mrs. Santos appeared coming from the van with 2 cups of hot coffee she'd just bought from the container that had just opened. "Jack, have some coffee and let the girl work. She's got good hands. She's the one who got my van running a few moments ago." Jack took the coffee, blew on it but gave space. Emma asked for tools. Jack opened the truck's side compartment. There was everything, organized like a war arsenal. Wrenches of all sizes, pliers, multimeter, even a set of professional sockets. Emma took what she needed and started working. Mrs. Santos sat on a nearby stone, drinking her coffee, watching. "Honey, where did you learn all this about engines?" Emma had her head buried under the hood, but answered. "From my father, Pete Roberts. He was a trucker. He had a yellow freightliner he called Titanic. He said it was unsinkable, but it would never really sink." Mrs. Santos smiled. "And is your father still a trucker?" Emma stopped moving. She stayed quiet for a few seconds. "No, Mom. He died 9 years ago. I was 15. Emma's voice became low but continued. It was on the descent of Wolf Creek Pass. The Titanic's brakes failed. He tried to throw himself against the guardrail so he wouldn't hit anyone, but it flipped. The cab was crushed. He died on impact." Mrs. Santos made the sign of the cross. "My God!" Jack, who was leaning against the cab listening, lowered his head. Every trucker knew this kind of story. He might not have known Pete, but he knew the story. Wolf Creek Pass had been killing truckers for decades. After his death, my mother wanted to sell the Titanic for scrap, but I didn't let her. I asked her to keep it in the yard. I spent the last 9 years trying to fix that truck. I learned by myself with books, YouTube, asking mechanics on the street, and you know what I discovered? Emma came out from under the hood and wiped her hands on her pants. My father died because the garage that did the service a week before botched the job. They changed the brake pads but didn't purge the system properly. There was air left in the lines. On the first descent, the brakes failed. Emma came out from under the hood, wiped her hands. That's why I don't trust rushed mechanics. A rushed machine gets nowhere. That was the last thing my father taught me. He said it every time he did maintenance. He said an engine is like people. You need patience, you need to listen, you need to feel. If you treat the machine like an enemy, it becomes your enemy. If you treat it with respect, it respects you. Mrs. Santos was writing in her notebook again. Emma didn't see it. She was returning to the engine with a veterinary syringe that Mrs. Santos had pulled from the van. "What's that for?" Jack asked, suspicious. "To inject clean diesel directly into the solenoid valve. I'm going to do a manual cleaning. No scanner, no electronics. Old school." Jack shook his head. "You're crazy. That won't work." Emma inserted the syringe into the injector, pulled the piston, filled it with clean diesel that Jack had in a jerry can. She injected the diesel under pressure directly into the valve. Once, twice, 3 times. She felt the resistance decrease. The valve was unblocking. She took a rag, cleaned the excess, closed everything up. "Mr. Jack, start it." Jack got in the cab skeptical, turned the key. The engine coughed, misfired. Emma closed her eyes, whispered, "Come on, big guy, talk to me, tell me where it hurts." Jack tried again. The engine rumbled, almost started, died. Mrs. Santos got up from the stone, tense. Emma climbed on the step. One more time, calmly let it breathe. Jack turned the key for the 3rd time. The Mercedes-Benz Actros engine roared like a lion waking up. It started strong, smooth, perfect. Jack yelled in the cab, jumped down, hugged Emma and lifted her off the ground. "You're a witch, kid. A witch." The celebration lasted less than a minute. Headlights from a car cut through the dawn, arriving at high speed on Route 66. A white Amarok, brand new, stopped with sudden braking that raised dust. The door opened and a young man got out. No more than 28, gelled hair, Mercedes-Benz Polo, cargo pants full of pockets, and an aluminum briefcase that looked more expensive than Jack's entire truck. He had the posture of someone used to being the smartest person in the room. "Jack Morrison," the man yelled without even looking properly at who was there. "I'm Matthew from MB Tech Diagnostics. The factory sent me to fix this vehicle. Where's the broken rig?" Jack was still smiling, arm around Emma's shoulder. "Hey man, the problem's already solved. This girl's a genius." Matthew didn't even let him finish. He looked at Emma, evaluated her in 2 seconds, and the contempt was automatic. The worn clothes, the holed sneakers, the tired face. "This girl. Jack, for God's sake, did you call a real mechanic or did you let an apprentice play with your engine?" Emma felt her stomach tighten. It was always like this. No matter what she did, people just had to look at her to decide she was worth nothing. Matthew approached, opened the hood without asking permission, stuck his hand in as if he owned it. "Good God, who touched here? Everything's out of spec. There are even traces of improvised tools on the injector. This is mechanical vandalism." Mrs. Santos took a step forward. "Sir, the girl fixed it. The engine started. You hear it?" Matthew didn't even look at her. "You hear the engine running irregularly, ma'am? This isn't fixed. It's a pitiful band-aid that'll last half an hour, if that. After that, it'll completely seize up, and then the damage will be 3 times greater." He opened the aluminum briefcase on the hood, revealing state-of-the-art electronic equipment. Color touchscreen, cables and sensors organized like a surgeon's arsenal. This is a premium OBD scanner. It reads all error codes from the electronic injection system, does a virtual compression test, measures the temperature of each cylinder in real time. German technology. You're playing last-century mechanic while the world has evolved. Emma was still, silent, trying not to explode. Matthew connected the scanner to the truck's injection module. The screen lit up, began scrolling lines of codes, numbers, graphs. He stood there typing, frowning, looking like he was doing something extremely complex. Jack started to doubt. "But the engine started, Matthew. It's running." Matthew raised his finger to silence him. "Wait, the equipment's doing a complete diagnosis." Another minute of silence. The screen was blinking. Matthew read aloud, "UCM45 injection module, showing critical failure of rail pressure sensor, code PZ192. Recommendation, immediate replacement of complete unit. I have the part at my shop in Tulsa. I can bring it tomorrow. Module price, $18,000. Labor, $2,500. Jack turned white. $20,000? Man, I don't have that." Matthew closed the briefcase. "Then, my friend, your truck's staying here until you find the money, and I don't advise driving it in this condition. You risk seizing the entire engine, and then it's $100,000 damage or more." Emma couldn't take it anymore. "You're lying." Everyone turned to her. Matthew had a short laugh without humor. "What?" Emma pointed at the scanner. "That code PZ192 the equipment gave has nothing to do with the engine problem. It's a sensor failure, not a blocked injector. Those are 2 different things. The engine's running because I unblocked the solenoid valve. The pressure sensor can give a wrong reading, but that's not what prevented the engine from starting." Matthew's face hardened. "Oh, yeah? And what studies have you done? Kid from YouTube University?" Emma took a step forward. "I haven't done any studies, but I know how to listen to an engine, and I know when someone's trying to sell an expensive part that's not necessary." Matthew threw the briefcase on the ground, angry. "Jack, are you going to believe this little con artist or me? A Mercedes-Benz USA certified technician with 8 years of experience, $25,000 equipment, and a service center that sent me here because you called desperate yesterday?" Jack looked at one, then the other. The doubt was visible. He'd just seen the engine start with Emma's hands, but the guy in the Polo had papers, he had equipment, he had a company. Mrs. Santos was still sitting on the stone, taking notes. She said nothing, but her eyes were fixed on Jack. An old Peugeot 205 stopped on the other side of the station. A man in state trooper uniform got out. He must have been in his 40s, beer belly, mustache. He approached. "Good morning. Everything okay here? I got a call about a vehicle parked on the road for 2 days." Jack explained the situation. The trooper listened, looked at the truck, heard the engine running. "So it's already fixed, right? You can get back on the road." Matthew intervened. "Negative, officer. The vehicle has a critical failure of the injection system. It's dangerous to let it drive." The trooper frowned. "But the engine's running." Matthew sighed, impatient. "It's running with an improvised repair that'll fail at the first climb. I'm a certified technician. I can show you the scanner report." The trooper shook his head. "Listen, I don't know anything about mechanics, but if the gentleman here is certified, I think it's better to follow the recommendation, Mr. Jack. Then, if there's a problem on the road, the responsibility is yours." Jack closed his eyes. It was at that moment Emma realized she'd lost her ally. The trooper had been convinced by the posture, the uniform, the equipment. Mrs. Santos continued to stay quiet, just watching. Matthew took advantage. "Jack, I'll do it like this. I'll take the scanner, but I'll leave the truck prohibited from circulation until you decide what to do. If you want to take the risk with this girl's work, that's your problem. But when it seizes up, don't come looking for me." Emma felt anger boiling, but stronger than anger was humiliation. It was always like this. She could start the engine, she could solve the problem, but in the end there was always someone with papers, nice clothes, a nice speech who came to destroy everything. Jack was undecided. "Matthew, let me test the truck first, okay? Just take a lap around the station, see if it really runs well." Matthew sighed but accepted. "Do the test, but only in the station. Don't go out on the road." Jack got in the cab, started the engine, put it in first gear, started rolling slowly in the abandoned parking lot. The engine was perfect, smooth, no misfires, no abnormal noise. He accelerated to second gear, third. The Actros responded as if nothing had happened. Matthew had his arms crossed, face closed. Emma was leaning against Mrs. Santos's van, looking at the ground. That's when the engine started to misfire. Suddenly one misfire, then another. The truck lost power. Jack pressed the accelerator, tried to maintain, but the engine died, stopped. Silence. Matthew had a wide smile. "See, I warned you. Pitiful Band-Aid." He went to the truck, opened the hood again, stuck his hand in, checked. The valve's blocked again, because the problem isn't the valve. It's the injection module sending the wrong signal. "But I'm not going to stay here trying to explain electronic engineering to someone who hasn't studied." Emma approached, confused. She was sure she'd properly unblocked the valve. She'd felt it release. She'd heard the engine start strong. What had gone wrong? Mrs. Santos finally got up from the stone. She walked slowly to the truck, ran her hand over the hood, looked at Emma. "Honey, are you sure of what you did?" Emma nodded, but her voice came out weak. "Yes, Mrs. Santos." She turned to Matthew. "And you, sir, are you sure of your equipment's diagnosis?" Matthew tapped the briefcase. "The scanner doesn't lie, ma'am. A machine has no ego." Mrs. Santos stayed silent for a few seconds, then looked at the trooper. "Officer, could you take a little look under the hood too, just to be sure?" The trooper shrugged. "I don't know anything about engines, ma'am," Mrs. Santos insisted. "Then just look. No need to understand." The trooper approached, looked over Matthew's shoulder, saw nothing special. That's when Mrs. Santos spoke softly. "Matthew, show us your right hand." Matthew blushed. What's this about?" Mrs. Santos repeated. "Show your hand." The trooper looked at him. "Show it, sir." Matthew raised his right hand. There was fresh diesel on his fingers. The trooper frowned. "You were touching the engine?" Matthew tried to hide it. "I was doing a visual inspection, obviously." Mrs. Santos pointed at the injector. "Emma, look there again." Emma approached, stuck her hand in, felt. The solenoid valve was blocked again, but it wasn't a natural blockage. It had been forced. Someone had tightened it on purpose. She looked into Matthew's eyes and understood. You sabotaged it. You blocked the valve again when Jack stopped the truck. Matthew exploded. That's a defamatory accusation. I'll sue you. The trooper was no longer relaxed. Sir, I saw you with your hand in the engine. If you really did that, it's a crime. Property damage. Matthew grabbed the briefcase, ran to the Amarok. You're all crazy. I'm not going to waste my time with this. He got in the car and left in a rush, raising dust. The trooper noted the plate. I'm going to open a report. This won't stay like this. Emma was still processing what had just happened. Mrs. Santos touched her shoulder. Honey, unblock that valve again. I think now no one will come to bother anymore. Emma returned to the engine, redid the procedure. 10 minutes later, the Actros was running again. Jack tested, drove all around the station, went up the small access ramp, accelerated hard. Nothing. Perfect engine. He got out with tears in his eyes, hugged Emma again. Forgive me, kid, I doubted you. Forgive me. But the victory lasted little. Jack got in the cab, turned on the complete dashboard to check the instruments before hitting the road. That's when the red light came on. The oil temperature was rising too fast. He cut the engine immediately, got out hurriedly. Emma, there's something wrong. The oil's boiling. Emma felt the ground disappear under her feet. She ran back to the engine, stuck her hand underneath, felt the heat coming from the crankcase. It was too hot in an abnormal way. She asked for Jack's phone flashlight and shone it from below. What she saw turned her stomach. There was oil leaking. It wasn't a big leak, but it was constant, a thin stream coming from the crankcase gasket, and the level was low, very low. When did you last check the oil level? Emma asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Jack scratched his head. About 3 days ago. It was normal. Why? Emma closed her eyes. Because now it's critical, and if you start this engine and go on the road, it'll seize in less than 30 miles. The trooper, who was still there doing his report against Matthew, approached. So the problem wasn't solved. Emma shook her head. The injector problem was, but there's another one. The vibration from the blocked engine for those 2 days must have loosened the crankcase gasket. The oil's leaking, and without enough oil, the engine will seize. Mrs. Santos continued sitting on the stone, watching. She said nothing, just taking notes. Jack panicked. And now, how much does a crankcase gasket cost for this truck? Emma knew the answer. She knew because she'd researched prices for big truck parts when she dreamed of working in a real garage. The gasket alone costs about $400, but you need to lift the truck with an industrial hydraulic jack, unscrew the entire crankcase, clean the surface, install the new gasket, apply specific sealant, wait for it to dry, screw everything back. It's at least 6 hours of work with complete tools, and you need new oil to refill, about 4 gallons. In total, with the part and labor, it's about $2,500. Jack sat on the ground, head in his hands. I don't have that, Emma. I spent what I had paying the other mechanics who solved nothing. I only have $700 in my wallet, and this load of fruit is rotting. If I don't deliver by noon in Houston, the buyer cancels the order. Damage of $18,000. His voice broke. I'm going to lose everything, kid. I'm going to lose the truck. I'm going to lose the contract. I'm going to lose the house I put up as collateral at the bank. He started crying. A 50-year-old man, tattooed trucker, crying like a child. Emma looked at the sky. It was still dark, but the horizon was starting to lighten. It must have been about 5 a.m. She had 3 hours to solve this before Jack's deadline expired. The trooper put away his notebook. Listen, I have to go. My shift's ending, but good luck to you. He got in the Peugeot and left. Only 3 remained. Emma, Jack, and Mrs. Santos. Emma looked at the old van parked nearby. She approached, opened the back door. It was filled with jewelry boxes, but underneath there were other things, old tools, leftover materials that Mrs. Santos must have been taking to the market. And there, in the back, half hidden, there was a crocodile-type hydraulic jack, old, rusty, but functional. Emma looked at Mrs. Santos. "Ma'am, will you lend me this jack?" Mrs. Santos got up from the stone, approached, looked at the jack, looked at Emma. "I'll lend it to you, but are you going to manage to lift a truck this size with this old jack?" Emma wasn't sure, but it was the only chance. "I'll try." Jack stood up, wiped his face. "Emma, even if you manage to lift the truck, you don't have the gasket. You don't have the oil. You have nothing." Emma knew it. And that's when the craziest idea came to her mind. She looked at the horizon, thinking, then looked at Jack. "Mr. Jack, do you trust me?" Jack nodded. "After everything I've seen, yes." Emma breathed deeply. "Then give me 2 hours, just 2. If I don't solve it, you call the tow truck and take it to the official garage in Tulsa." Emma took the hydraulic jack from the van, dragged it to the truck, positioned it under the chassis, started pumping. The jack was old, hard, squeaked but worked. Slowly, very slowly, the truck started to rise. Emma pumped until her arm was exhausted. 15 minutes of pure effort. When she got enough height, she wedged a piece of wood she found in the station's trash to secure it. Then she lay on the ground, slid her body under the truck. The vision was claustrophobic, tons of metal above her, supported by an old jack and a plank. If it fell, it would crush her like a cockroach. Jack got nervous. "Emma, get out of there. It's way too dangerous." Emma didn't come out. She was looking at the crankcase gasket up close now. The leak was in a specific corner, 3 bolts. The gasket rubber had dried out in that spot. She had 2 options. Try to reseal with some kind of improvised sealant or replace the entire gasket. But she didn't have a new gasket, no industrial sealant. She had nothing. Emma came out from under the truck, went to her backpack that she'd left near the van, opened it, searched. There was an old T-shirt, an empty water bottle, a piece of soap, and her father's Swiss Army knife. Emma took the knife, looked at it. It was the most precious tool she had, not for its quality, but for its meaning. It was the last thing her father had held before dying. The name Pete was engraved on the handle. Emma had carried it for 9 years like a sacred relic. She'd sworn never to lose it, never to trade it, never to lend it. Mrs. Santos approached. "Honey, what are you thinking?" Emma looked at her, then at the knife. "Mrs. Santos, do you have glue? Any type of strong glue?" Mrs. Santos searched in the van, found a tube of superglue, old, half-used, gave it to Emma. "I only have this." Emma took it. Then she took her father's knife, opened the largest blade. It was carbon steel, good, resistant. She breathed deeply. What she was about to do was madness, but it was the only chance. Emma went back under the truck, started unscrewing the 3 bolts from the corner where the gasket was leaking. She removed them, cleaned the surface with the old T-shirt, scraped off the dried rubber residue. Then she took the knife. With the tip of the blade, she started cutting a thin piece of rubber from the sole of her own holed sneaker. She cut carefully, molded it to the shape of the gasket corner. It was complete improvisation, System D elevated to art. Jack was lying on the ground outside, watching. "Emma, that won't hold." Emma didn't answer. She glued the piece of rubber to the gasket surface with the superglue, waited for it to dry. 3 minutes, 5 minutes. The sun was starting to rise. Now orange light was cutting the horizon. Emma tested the glue. It had dried. She put the 3 bolts back, tightened hard, using the wrench she'd taken from Jack's toolbox. She came out from under the truck, sweaty, dirty with oil from head to toe. She lowered the jack slowly. The truck descended. Emma looked at her father's knife. The blade was bent at the tip from cutting the hard rubber. It was almost useless now. She'd sacrificed the most precious tool she had. Mrs. Santos was still watching. She wrote something else in her notebook. Emma put the broken knife in her bag, trying not to think too much about it. She looked at Jack. "Now the oil's missing. The engine's low. If you start it like this, it'll seize anyway." Jack opened the truck's cargo compartment. There were crates and crates of fruit, mangoes, papayas, watermelons. Lower, under the fruit, there were jerry cans of reserve diesel. "I have diesel, but I don't have engine oil." Emma thought fast. "Mrs. Santos's van. What oil?" Mrs. Santos shook her head. "I had the oil changed last week. There must be about 3 quarts left in the engine." Emma looked at her, embarrassed to ask. But Mrs. Santos understood before she spoke. "You want to take the oil from my van to put in the truck?" Emma nodded, ashamed. "Just a little, Mrs. Santos, just to complete the minimum level. About 1.5 gallons. The van will still make it to Houston." Mrs. Santos stayed silent, looked at the van, looked at Emma, looked at the notebook, then sighed. "Do what you have to do, honey." Emma took a hose, improvised a siphon, started draining the oil from the van's crankcase. It was used oil, dirty, but it still worked. She drained 1.5 gallons into plastic bottles she found in the trash. Then she went to the truck, opened the oil reservoir cap, poured everything in, quart by quart. When she finished, she checked the dipstick. It was at minimum, just barely, but it was there. Emma looked at Jack. "Start it." Jack got in the cab. His hand was shaking when he took the key. He turned it. The engine started, smooth, firm. Emma lay on the ground again, looked underneath. No leak. The improvisation had held, at least for now. Jack got out, hugged Emma for the 3rd time that dawn. This time, he was crying with gratitude. "You saved my life, kid. You saved my family. I don't know how to thank you." He took from his wallet the $700 he had. "Take it all. I know it's not enough, but it's all I have." Emma took the money, but her hand felt heavy. She'd sacrificed her father's knife. She'd taken the oil from Mrs. Santos's van. She'd risked her own life under that truck. And $700 seemed like a lot and little at the same time. Mrs. Santos approached the two. "Jack, you have to go. Your deadline is tight." Jack nodded, got in, started, shifted into gear. Before leaving, he yelled through the window, "Emma, you're a genius, kid. Never give up. You'll go far." The Actros slowly left the station, reached the road, accelerated, and disappeared on Route 66 toward Houston. Silence fell. Emma and Mrs. Santos alone. Emma sat on the curb in the same place where she'd found Mrs. Santos crying hours before. It felt like a lifetime had passed. She looked at her own hands. They were black with oil, small cuts, dirty nails. She looked at the sky lightening, thought of her mother waiting for her at home, thought of the $700 in her pocket. That would buy her medications for 2 weeks, maybe 3 if she saved. She thought of her father's broken knife, stored in her bag. She felt an emptiness in her chest. Mrs. Santos sat next to her. They stayed there, both of them, watching the sun rise over Route 66. Trucks passed honking, fast cars, the world continuing to move forward. She opened the notebook, reread the notes page by page, then closed it, put it in her bag. "Emma, can I ask you a question?" Her voice had changed. It was no longer that crying, scared provincial voice. It was firm, calm. Emma looked at her. "Yes, Mrs. Santos." She pointed at the horizon. "Why did you do all this? You didn't know Jack. You didn't know me. You were going home on foot, tired, with no money after being humiliated. Why did you stop?" Emma took time to answer. When she spoke, her voice came out low. "Because my father died alone on the road, Mrs. Santos, and I wasn't there to help him. Every time I see someone broken down on the road with a problem, I think of him. I stop, because I wish someone had stopped for my father that day." Mrs. Santos wiped a tear that fell. "You're a good girl, Emma, a very good girl." Emma had a tired smile. "Being good doesn't pay the bills, Mrs. Santos. It doesn't find work. It doesn't get anyone out of poverty. Mrs. Santos looked at her fixedly. You really believe that? Emma shrugged. That's what the world taught me. Mrs. Santos stood up, went to the van, got her bag, came back, and sat again. Emma, I need to tell you something, and you're going to think I'm crazy or a liar or both, but I have to speak. Emma turned to her, confused. Mrs. Santos breathed deeply. My name isn't just Santos. It's Maria Aparecida dos Santos, and I don't sell jewelry at the market. Emma stayed confused. Then what do you do, ma'am? Mrs. Santos took a card from her bag. It wasn't the scribbled card she'd given before. It was a professional printed card with a logo. She handed it to Emma. Emma read aloud, Maria Aparecida dos Santos, President, Transglobal, Transport and Logistics. She looked at Mrs. Santos, looked at the card, looked at the simple clothes, the sandals, the old van. I don't understand. Mrs. Santos smiled. Transglobal is the largest transport company in the southwest United States, Emma. 3,000 employees, a fleet of 800 trucks, revenue of $200 million a year, and I'm the owner. Emma felt the ground shake. How? You're mocking me? Mrs. Santos shook her head. No, honey. And this old van is really mine. I bought it in 1998 when my husband was still alive and we had only one truck. I never wanted to sell it. These clothes I bought at a thrift store in Phoenix 10 years ago. They still fit me. And these sandals, I got them from a friend. They're comfortable. Emma was processing the information but couldn't understand. But why? Why were you here dressed like this, pretending to be... Mrs. Santos interrupted. Because I'm tired, Emma. Tired of fake people. I have 3 children, none work. They live off the allowance I give them, waiting for me to die so they can divide the inheritance. I have nephews, godchildren, relatives I didn't even know existed. Everyone calls me, asks for money, a position, a favor. I built this company alone after my husband's death. I was hungry, I was cold, I slept in truck cabs, and now everyone wants a piece, but nobody wants to work, nobody wants to sweat, nobody has character. She pointed at the notebook. That's why I decided to do a test. Travel incognito across the country, disguise myself as poor, see how people would treat me, see if there are still good people in this world. Emma started trembling. And I was... Mrs. Santos took her hand. You were the first person in 3 months of travel to really help me without wanting anything in return. The first. I've already crossed 12 states. I pretended the van broke down in all of them. You know how many people stopped? 17. You know how many helped me for free? 0. Everyone wanted money. And when I offered little, they got angry, insulted me, left. But you refused my money and even went to help Jack, even exhausted. Emma couldn't speak. Mrs. Santos continued. And there's more. Jack isn't my cousin. He's a driver from my company. I asked him to pretend the truck was broken and stay here. I asked him to call mechanics, to test people. 3 mechanics came before you, all charged expensive. None solved it. One even gave a false diagnosis to sell an unnecessary part, exactly like Matthew did today. Emma felt her head spinning. So everything was a test. Mrs. Santos squeezed her hand. No, honey, Matthew wasn't planned. He really showed up and I saw him sabotage. I saw him act against you and I saw you not give up. She pointed at the sky. And that oil leak at the end was also real. I hadn't arranged any of that with Jack. Life tested you again and you passed. You sacrificed your father's knife, the most precious tool you had. You asked me for the oil from my van, even with the shame. You risked your life under that truck. Why? Because you can't see someone on the road with a problem and just leave. Tears started falling on Emma's face. Mrs. Santos stood up, helped her stand too. You don't need to say anything, honey. You just need to listen to me. I spent the last 3 months looking for someone to leave my inheritance to. Not my children because they don't deserve it. Not my relatives because they're all interested. I wanted to find someone who had what I had when I started. hunger to succeed, but without losing their humanity, pure talent, but with character. And I found it. Emma stepped back. Mrs. Santos, I don't understand. You want me to... Mrs. Santos opened her bag, took out a craft envelope. In this envelope, there are 3 documents. The first is the deed of ownership to a 5,000-square-foot warehouse on Main Street in Tulsa. Complete garage, lift, electronic injection scanner, compressor, professional tools, everything's in your name. Paid off. Emma took the envelope, hands trembling, opened it, saw the documents. Everything was there, everything was real. Mrs. Santos continued, the second document is the opening of a bank account in your name. I transferred $50,000 to this account. It's startup capital for you to hire employees, buy parts, pay bills, start doing things right. Emma fell to her knees on the ground crying. This isn't real, it's not possible, I'm dreaming. Mrs. Santos knelt beside her. It's real, honey, as real as everything you did tonight. You saved Jack's life, you saved his cargo, you saved his family, and you didn't even know him. Now let me save yours. She showed the third document. And this one is a partnership contract. Trans Global will be your garage's first client. We have 800 trucks that need constant maintenance. You'll be the official mechanic for the Tulsa Region Fleet, renewable contract, guaranteed revenue of $50,000 a month. Emma was sobbing, unable to form words. Mrs. Santos hugged her. Cry, honey, cry it all out. You deserve it. They stayed there, embraced in the middle of that abandoned gas station, while the sun rose and illuminated everything. After a few minutes, Emma managed to breathe again. She wiped her face with her dirty shirt sleeve. Mrs. Santos, I don't know how to thank you. I don't even know where to start. Mrs. Santos smiled. Start by being yourself. Don't change. Don't let money change you. Keep stopping to help those broken down on the road. Keep treating engines like people. Keep being the Emma your father taught you to be. Emma nodded, trying to absorb everything. And now what do I do? Mrs. Santos stood up, extended her hand to help her up too. Now you go home, hug your mother tight, tell her everything, cry with her, then rest. Monday, I'll send my lawyer to get you. We'll sign the papers and you'll start your new life. Emma looked at the old van. And the van's without oil because of me. Mrs. Santos laughed. Emma, I have a fleet of 800 trucks. I think I can change the oil in one van. She opened the driver's door, got in, started the engine. It ran irregularly, but it ran. She rolled down the window. And one more thing, honey. That broken knife you sacrificed, I saw the engraving of your father's name on the handle. Pete, I want you to keep it. Don't throw it away because that broken knife is worth more than all the electronic scanners in the world. It proves you're capable of sacrificing what you have most precious to help a stranger. And that, Emma, is what separates an ordinary mechanic from a real woman, Mrs. Santos started, waved through the window, and slowly left, the old van smoking, squeaking, but moving forward. Emma stood still, alone again, holding the craft envelope. She looked around, the abandoned station, the dry trees, Route 66, that had seen her father die and now had seen her reborn. She opened her bag, took out the broken knife, ran her finger over the bent blade, read the engraved name. Pete, Dad, I think we did it. We fixed more than an engine today. We fixed life. She put the knife back in the bag, threw the backpack on her shoulders, and started walking, no longer head down, defeated. Now, head high, walking toward home, walking toward the future. Epilogue. 6 months later. The illuminated sign shone on Main Street in Tulsa. Pete's Garage. Here we fix engines and restore faith. Below, in smaller letters, Mondays, trucker in trouble day, free or social rate service. The warehouse was full. 3 trucks in maintenance, 2 mechanics working, music playing on the radio, and in the back, parked like a trophy, her father's yellow Freightliner. Completely restored, running, shining, in the place of honor. Emma was under a Volvo doing an oil change when she heard the familiar horn. She came out, wiped her hands. It was Jack in the Actros. He got out smiling, hugged Emma. "So genius. I'm here for the 20,000-mile service." Emma smiled. "Leave the truck there, Mr. Jack. It's on the schedule." But there was another person getting out of the Actros. A thin young man, gelled hair, polo shirt. "Matthew." Emma tensed. Matthew approached, head down. "Emma, I came to ask for forgiveness and ask for a chance," Jack explained. "MB Tech fired him, Emma. They discovered he was sabotaging other clients too to sell expensive parts. He's been unemployed for 4 months. He's broke. He's looking for work everywhere. Nobody will take him." Matthew swallowed hard. "I know I don't deserve it. I know I was horrible to you, but I need a chance. I've learned the hard way that technology without character is worth nothing." Emma looked at him, remembered the humiliation, remembered the sabotage, remembered the arrogance, but she also remembered Mrs. Santos's words. "Don't change. Don't let money change you. Keep being the Emma your father taught you to be." Emma sighed. "You'll work here, but not as head mechanic. You'll start as an apprentice, minimum wage. You'll learn to listen to engines, and more importantly, you'll learn to listen to people. If you really change, you move up. If you don't change, the door's there." Matthew shook her hand, tears in his eyes. "Thank you. I swear I won't let you down." Emma pointed at the yellow Freightliner in the back. "Your first task, clean that truck. Every bolt, every inch. That's my father's truck. Treat it with respect." That evening, Emma closed the garage late in the afternoon. Everyone had left. She stayed alone, sitting in the Freightliner's cab, illuminated. She thought about everything that had happened. One night, one choice, one act of kindness, and her whole life had changed. She took the broken knife that was now hanging on a keychain in the garage, looked at the engraving, Pete, and whispered, "True wealth isn't measured by the size of the garage, Dad, but by the size of the heart of the one who works in it." She turned off the lights, locked the door, went home where her mother waited for her, healed, happy, with the house renovated and medications bought. She went to sleep, knowing that tomorrow she'd wake up and do it all again, fix engines, restore faith, multiply kindness, because she'd learned the greatest lesson of all. In a world that only values profit, the most revolutionary act is to help without expecting anything in return. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe to Engines of Hope, like this video, and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps us continue sharing these inspiring stories.